Ladies and gentlemen,
everybody wants the prize, but nobody wants to pay the price.
Can they be pushed? Do they have a sense of urgency? Do they want to be great?
And then, of course, you look at them and be like, yeah, right.
Everybody wants to be on your team when you're on top.
I saw the angel and the marble, and I carved until I set him free.
Go be somebody, bro.
But the most important part of the Be Somebody journey is the resilience.
Welcome to the Be Somebody Podcast, your real and raw destination for all things entrepreneurship, leadership, and culture. One of the top-rated business podcasts in the world. Now give it up for your host, Be Somebody Inc. and BSB Group International founder and CEO, Kash Shaikh.
Welcome to the Be Somebody Podcast. You're still here, Herbie. We still got Herbie Pilata in the house.
You invited me back for
the Italian Stallion returns. It's like Rocky 3 all over again, man. It's like, I can't believe you made it here, man.
I need some gloves.
I know,
dude. Gloves.
Hey, you've got the build. You've got the physique. That's all that matters.
I'll take that as a compliment.
I mean, I feel like the biceps are there, the triceps are there, everything necessary to be a world class.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we're
okay.
Almost. We're almost there, Herbie. We had such a great guest on the last episode, Andrea Diquez from Saatchi & Saatchi, and I was so inspired by that conversation, just from her personal story to her passion for everything that's happening in the world, her push for companies to speak up and speak out, like we've been talking about, right? This is a time for brand purpose, for values, for belief. And I love that conversation with Andrea. And I know we're going to continue it today with our next guest from Procter & Gamble, who I'm really excited to talk to. Most folks know who listen to the show. I used to work at P&G. I spent 10 years there. Amazing company. Largest consumer products company in the world. Sell Charmin, sell Bounty, sell a lot of things, sell Pepto-Bismol. If for some reason I get tired of staring at you, Herbie, and I get queasy.
Just take a swig.
I take a swig, but CPG, right? You think about CPG, and a lot of people don't know that the category is separated in edibles and non-edibles, right? So basically, things that you consume, right. Herbie. And I don't want to go down that dark place about everything that you're consuming and what you're thinking about when we talk about edibles. Yeah, right, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why we got Vikas off the show because he was just going down into a deep dark place on that one. But I don't. When it's broken down into edibles and non-edibles, and when you look at the data, according to IRI Worldwide, which is one of the the most respected industry monitoring data analytics companies, and Boston Consulting Group (BCG), there was a 20% increase in consumer spending on edibles compared to a year ago in the last month, whereas consumer spending on non-edibles only grew about 7%. So people, as we know and we all experienced, there was that uptick, that hoarding, as some people say, of food, of grocery. And grocery stores were seeing the most growth across all the big kind of chain retail stores, across all the mass market stores, convenience stores. Groceries were peaking at 90% increase in consumer spending versus a year ago, just a month ago, during that stockpiling phase.
Yeah, I think definitely a little guilty of that myself. So I contributed to those numbers a little bit.
Your household was about 80% of it.
Yes.
Non-edibles all saw a decline compared to a year ago. That's cosmetics, that's even OTC healthcare, even pet food. Of all the edibles and non-edibles, so everything within the CPG category, frozen foods experienced the highest increase in consumer spending versus a year ago at 36%, which is very interesting. If you remember in the early days of our podcast, episode 4, we had Christine Day from Performance Kitchen, which really specializes in what they call fresh frozen, which is basically the science of freezing food at the height of its nutritional value and capturing the nutritional content within that food so that even though you're sticking it in your freezer and you're buying it from the freezer, it's still really healthy for you. So I think that concept of fresh frozen is going to expand as a result of this pandemic. And then, of course, we saw the uptick on general merchandise, paper products, home care, things like that, versus a year ago because people were stockpiling on toilet paper and all that during the pandemic, during that hoarding phase. And really, to me, one of the most lasting impacts of this is from a consumer habit change perspective of people's comfort level of buying groceries online, leveraging delivery platforms like the Instacarts, like the Ships to get food. And I really believe that trend is here to stay, and that's going to continue to grow because we've all gotten comfortable with that process. So that's why I'm really excited about our guest today, man, because I want to get into how the business has been affected with not only the COVID-19 pandemic, which was obviously top of mind a few weeks ago, but also how's the company thinking about Black Lives Matter? How's the company thinking about the new mandate from consumers for big companies, big brands to have a point of view, to have a belief, and to speak up on that belief and then put action behind it? You know, and we have one of the leaders on the innovation side from Procter & Gamble, a mentor of mine from back in the day, my man Jerry Porter. He's going to be in studio next to me today, which I'm pumped up about, right? Because we haven't had many guests who've come in yet.
No, this is my first in studio guest, and I believe this is our second in our 2 seasons here.
Second time ever, and Jerry's amazing. He's always been such an inspiring leader to me. Very down to earth. Very well traveled. You know, Jerry might be the only person who has more Delta Sky miles than I do.
We're gonna find out.
I mean, because seriously, I've been blessed since 2003. You know, I spent basically at least a day or two a week on the road with my various jobs. And when we started this company, I just wanted to get the hell away from you. So I was trying to get a plane as far as I could. I would go to Singapore. I'd go, Seattle as quickly as possible just to get away from you, Herbie.
All right, now I understand. Well, you're not doing much traveling right now, so
I know. Now we're stuck, and that's why I wake up moody. I wake up very moody. But Jerry, I mean, he's lived on a plane forever, so I'd love to talk to him about how the pandemic has affected his personal travel as well as business travel. And again, as an African American leader at a large public company, $80 billion company, how does he feel about everything that's going on in the world today? So it's going to be a great conversation that I'm so pumped to have Jerry here in the studio.
Awesome, Kash. Well, I'm super excited. Let's bring him on. Let's welcome a leader who graduated from Vanderbilt University with a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering. He started his career as an engineer at Procter & Gamble in 1987 and went on to have numerous director and VP roles. Now, after 33 years, he's the vice president of R&D Global Fabric Care at P&G from Cincinnati, Ohio. Please welcome Jerry Porter!
How you doing, brother? How you doing, man?
Great to see you, man. Jerry, you're in studio. You're only our second guest ever in studio.
Hey, man.
You know what I mean? I mean, and Herbie, we've got Herbie here. It's his second episode, right?
Yeah,
Herbie's second episode. Until I said, Herbie, we got a VIP coming in. Like, stay as far away as possible. We don't want you to interrupt the flow here. We may forget you're over there, Herbie.
I'm on the other side of the room. Don't mind me, guys.
I know. I mean, try to pipe in if you need to, but otherwise, just kind of like let me and Jerry do what we got to do.
I'll be over here if you need anything.
But Jerry, man, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, man, it's great to be here. Great to actually come in and see what you do, man. And like I said, I've been so proud of the work, and it's been really fortunate that I had a chance to sort of mentor you, support you during these years. And like I said, the whole Be Somebody franchise and the work you've done has just been, it's been heart lifting, and really glad to be able to participate and hopefully drop some knowledge tonight with you, my friend.
Yeah, man. Well, we got to get into your whole background and everything, but I got to tell the team here and everybody listening that I remember when I was doing the travels with Be Somebody, and we were going around painting murals, and we were going around speaking at schools.
I was pointing them out. It's like, hey, you see that up
there
on the highway?
Yeah, on 75.
On 75.
On 75 coming in downtown Cincinnati. And I remember I had a happy hour here in Cincinnati. I invited some folks, and I'm like, let's see who shows up. And only a couple of people from Procter & Gamble came, and you came. Actually, Jordan here and Alex Fishman came, who were in the room here in the studio, but you came out, man. And I remember, I always remember that, and I always appreciated those little things you did to support the journey.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, like I said, your, the writing, your thoughts, the whole program was so inspiring, what you were trying to do. And so, yeah, I wanted to come out and support. And then, you're just you're a great person, man. That's why we've been connected all these years and friends all this year. So I'm excited to be here to have this chat with you.
Well, man, but how many Sky Miles do you have, Jerry? I mean, tell me. I really want to know.
Listen, Matt, is it via one airline or multiple?
Well,
what are you looking at? What's your criteria?
I have 3.1 million miles on Delta.
Woo!
I'm a 3 million miler on Delta, Jerry. Come on,
man, you got me beat on Delta, man. I've got
we
over
go.
a million on Delta.
Yeah,
I feel
on Delta.
okay.
But I have 500,000 on Lufthansa.
Hey!
I got a couple 100,000 on United.
Oh man,
so I got to tally them up.
The Lufthansa is worth more. Damn it, Jerry, you just came in.
We're the presence of royalty.
I know, exactly. Exactly. You got to come in with the German airline, which we're going to talk about. But
Deutschland, yeah. Das ist gut, yeah.
Exactly. Guten Tag.
Guten Tag, yeah.
Well, Jeremy, we actually, Kieran's in the room today for the first time ever in our studio. And Kieran and I actually went to Berlin.
Awesome.
Feels like years ago, Karen. It was a few months ago, right?
Yeah. Checkpoint Charlie. Did you guys make it?
We make it at Checkpoint Charlie. We saw a lot of the sites there. We were working with one of our partners, international partners there. But, that was such an awesome experience, I think, for our team and Kieran, who's our head of culture here at Besomebody. We were talking to him, and he's a former Procter & Gamble employee as well.
You're in the house. All right. Represent.
We were talking about how amazing it was for us to experience the opportunity to see the world with P&G.
No, like I said, that has been, who would have thought, a country boy, as I like to say, from East Tennessee would have had the experiences that I've had in all the different countries and locales. Grew up in East Tennessee, always had an interest in science and mathematics. Went to a great school there. It was a great public school that even today really strives on excellence, and I keep in contact with a lot of the teachers there today. Mr. Keeble, who taught math, and Dr. Penny Ferguson on English. But yeah, it was a great foundation. And then from there, went to school at Vanderbilt in engineering. And like I said, it wasn't any magical decision on how to pick engineering. I went to the library, looked at the book and said, okay, I like science. I like math. What's going to get me a job and what pays well?
Right, exactly.
Engineering.
Right.
And so that said it. And like I said, it's been, I've really enjoyed it.
I did that too, Jerry. And then I looked at the engineering coursework and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to stick to communications. I'm like, let me go the safer route for me. You know what I mean?
They try to persuade you to drop out. Is this really what you want to do with some of those labs? But then from there, I was able to, get in with Procter & Gamble and a summer intern and started work in Memphis in his division called Buckeye Cellulose, pulp and paper work, traveling down to southern Florida in the Panhandle. And then, I had numerous assignments. From there, I decided to do a gig where I was actually doing work in Asia Pacific from the U.S. It was called International Technology Coordination. So I would work a month or so in the U.S. and then I'd be gone for, 3 to 4 weeks. And I was in the middle of India, in Manadip, doing at the facility there, doing agglomeration trials, or in the Philippines, in Manila, working with the business there, or in Japan. And then that really led to the first experience where I lived out of the country. I lived in Japan, only about a year, but based in Japan, completely different culture, and a very, very growthful time. While I was actually setting up that Asia Pacific group, I even was accused of being a Cecil Fielder at the time.
Oh yeah,
he was big at baseball at the time. I remember sitting at this, having a beer at this locale there, this beer garden, and I remember this. He goes, Cecil Fielder. I'm like, no, I'm not.
See, but
it was a good conversation.
I remember being in Manila in one of the barangays right south of the city and going in, and someone and I was tall and I was shooting because there was a basketball and there was a little hoop, and then they were like, Kobe Bryant. And,
I was,
and
Shaq. I was called Shaq at the time.
but I played. I was like, yeah, I'm in the NBA. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I play ball. Yeah, for sure. You were honest about it, but I'm like, yeah, I'm an NBA player. Yeah, play on the traveling team.
but the vibe you always get in the Philippines, Manila, it's a feeling of love, man. Everyone is so embracing when you get there, and so I had always enjoyed my visits and the work in the Philippines. Just the people, people just had a great heart, and and so it was a good time.
You recounting your journey, being really so young in your career and being able to travel the world. That's such a huge opportunity. And that's the reason I went to Procter & Gamble. Was like, I want to have a chance to work for a multinational company, a global company, and get a chance to see the world. It took me 8 years of campaigning before they finally gave me a developing market job. And it seemed like you got it quicker.
Fifth year.
You got 5 years.
5 years in, man.
but I really, for me, I was very blessed and grateful to be working in low-income markets because I worked in some of the poorest countries in the world, in the poorest communities, the favelas in Rio, the barangays,
the barrios in Chile and Argentina and some different places. Yeah, and I think the thing though that was common is folks wanted their kids to look the best, right? The school uniform, one of the best products to really, because that was the pride and joy, and that's just sort of that translates across the globe. You want the best for your kids and your family and how you take care of them. And so even in those constructs, that was a key need. That was a source of pride. That was taking care and showing the love for your family. And so it's great that we had brands and products that could be there and really meet their needs where the consumer's at. And so that's been the journey and the joy of being at P&G, of really bringing to life that purpose. Times we get in the conversation of, come on, you just make consumer goods. But when you really see how it intersects and interplays in the life of the consumer, it really does elevate the quality of the day and what it really means to take care of your family. And so it's great. So from that standpoint, I've really enjoyed the 33 years at P&G, the opportunities to live in Japan and in Germany for 5 years. I
want to talk to you about Germany, but just thinking about what we talked about with the Philippines and these low-income markets, I remember, and I know obviously we know, but maybe people don't know, we worked together on the Tide brand, Herbie, Jerry and I, and in the Philippines.
I think we were in Poland that time too, right? In Warsaw for the one of the big global
meetings. Yeah, we were in Poland. We were in Warsaw. We had some fun. We can't share all the details. Jerry, stop talking right now, please. My mother's listening. That was after. But in the Philippines, what was so interesting, one of the big consumer insights that I learned was that for a lot of the low-income consumers, when they wash clothes, they use the bar. And actually, they would go to the well to get water. The moms they'd come home and they would scrub the clothes. And what was interesting, whether you're in the Philippines, you're in Mexico, you're in the Middle East, as you mentioned, the bright white school uniform was a symbol of passion and pride and love and caring for your child. If you could send them to school with that perfectly clean uniform, because they didn't have much to share and show that love. These people didn't have a lot of money, didn't have a lot of things, and I always thought that was so powerful. Just like that was their way of showing their love.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and really elevating the kids and the total family, and just really taking pride in what they had and to make the most of it and live the day. And so like I said, it really taught me a lot also just about the human condition and just that we're all humans sort of striving to live our best in the world. And along the way, you get to meet a lot of people. And so like you, I'm an extrovert, but I don't know that my Rolodex has as many names in it as yours does now. But yeah, you meet folks along the way that really sort of touch you, their stories. And so I always enjoyed that part and that aspect of travel is, okay, so, who am I going to run in today to sort of learn a little bit about that I didn't know? And that's also an exciting piece.
That's really what started Be Somebody, to be honest. I mean, when I was traveling, that's when I started to learn that base concept that really is more important today than ever, which is we're all more similar than we are different.
Yep, definitely, man. Definitely.
And whether, no matter your income status, your race, your background, your culture, you're like, man, we all laugh and smile and cry at the same things and the same conversations. You'd walk into, literally somewhere in the Middle East where you never thought you'd have a commonality, and you'd have a conversation, be like, man, we're vibing on the same level.
Yeah, exactly. You could find something. You can, whether it could be sports, what food you like, whatever, and have a conversation. And a lot of times I would find folks just want to get to know who you are. I mean, especially if, a big guy like myself traveling in,
How many home runs, Cecil? How many
home runs, Cecil? Or in the Philippines, I go up to, at the Manila Hotel. I don't know if you ever remember that
Peninsula?
place.
Which one?
I was at the Manila, so in old Manila. It was the place that MacArthur sort of came into to announce, I should return after he had out. It's a very old and historic place, but everything's all in white. So I remember, very funny. I remember the guy at the door, and they call your taxi. We need a taxi over here. Need a taxi. He's very proper. He has his white uniform on. He looks over, sees me, he goes, "We need a larger taxi." I'm like,
Do we have any minivans?
Do we have any minivans for this brother? But no. So no, there was much love in the Philippines, and really enjoyed it. But I could tell you stories really just about every place that I've traveled. My wife still reminds me of the time we lost my son in Murano. But, there are lots of memories that we had during that time frame. She's like, wait a second, brother, this is supposed to be man-on-man defense. I had my daughter. You're supposed to have your son. But luckily, we found him within 5 minutes around all of that water in Venice and Murano. But yeah, so yeah, it was. We had stories like that that we can laugh about and experience.
Well, what's the contrast of that, of you growing up in a small town, Tennessee, and your kids really growing up around the world?
Yeah, I think the contrast is hopefully they have the perspective that anything is possible. I think they also have the perspective, given that they had such, like the Benetton, picture of friends from everywhere during that time frame, that at the core, we're all human. I mean, it's all about the relationships and who you know. And so they are very much, reach out to other individuals, and they have a great friend set. So I think it does hopefully build with them a sense of they can connect with a lot of people because they've been in those experiences. And, they don't mind traveling. I mean, it's not fearful. If anything, they want to, okay, where are we going? Where are we going to go and experience something different? So I hope that sets them up well in this really ultra connected world where, you're not competing just with everyone here in the U.S. You're competing now for the best minds across the globe. And so having a little sense of that, I think, hopefully prepares them for the world. And then more importantly, we get to share our culture. We get to debunk myths and beliefs about us. When we're out and how we operate. And I think the beauty about traveling when you're overseas, at least during the time I was, is first and foremost, you're an American in most places. Folks, you're American. It's not that you're a Black American. It's like, first you're an American. And then they might say, oh, okay, well, then the cultural aspects we could see. And so that was also, to a certain extent, a little bit uplifting and freeing as well, because not only, in those different countries, that's how folks viewed you, but then the expat community also, since you weren't all from Germany or wherever you might be, Japan, you also had that common bond of, hey, you're American. All away from home. So then the commonality is the school and the shared experience. And so we have great friends from all over.
There's a couple of things I want to get into with that. The first one, which felt heavy a couple of weeks ago, now feels less heavy given everything that's going on in America. But travel in the context of this COVID-19, world that we're in, how is it now for you being someone that's been on the road, been on a plane for the majority of your adult life? What's the travel experience for you now, and how are you feeling about getting back on a plane again?
Yeah, I mean, I know eventually I'm going to get back on the plane. I think, the things that are going to trigger it for me, I need to have some certainty that the airlines of, what systems are they putting in place to minimize the impact. Ideally, it would be great if, We have a vaccine in place, but that still could be a while. So I think once the borders start opening up, and I get some reassurance on how you can travel, with being in a tube for 7 or 8 hours with your closest friends,
right,
that the risk of getting sick is minimized, then I'll start to travel. But it could be, we're here in June. It might be toward the fall or the first half of next year where I think we're in a mode of really doing that freely. Airlines like Emirates, I think they're testing people right off the bat, before you get on the flight. So we'll have to see what the rest of the airlines do to provide that reassurance. Is it just going to be everyone wears a mask and the extra cleaning? So I think somewhere during that time frame, I'm going to get back on that flight to make the connections with my team.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of people don't realize that as a multinational company, Procter & Gamble has offices in China, has offices in around the world, and P&G was experiencing the COVID-19 pandemic long before it got to the United States.
I mean, personally, we saw it coming, right? I mean, we my team in Beijing, had to make changes and really make adjustments, January throughout, and so really, as I was watching that, I was already saying, okay, so the protocols, the approaches that they're taking there to protect themselves, to get the systems back up, we're going to need that. So was already feeding that information into my teams in Brussels and Newcastle and in the U.S. of start preparing, because what we're seeing happening in China, as much as we travel, it's going to get here. So.
Do you feel that helped you guys be more prepared here in the U.S.?
I think it gave us confidence and line of sight how to manage through it. We already had, as our teams in China worked through it and ran into systems that seemed to work, we knew what to pull from the playbook as things started to heat up first in Europe and other places. And so it definitely cut down on the time frame to react and to really be able to maintain operations both in our manufacturing facilities and also in our offices. And so even today, a lot of folks here are arguing over whether or not to wear a mask or not. It's like, it's really mandatory. And that's part of the way in a lot of our operations and that are happening in China, that folks are still operating on a normal basis is wearing your mask, doing some of the social distancing and taking and the extra cleaning and enabling them to manage through it.
How has P&G's business been doing during the whole pandemic period?
Listen, I think, during the period, the products and things that we sell are absolutely essential for the consumer. And for everyone, from toilet paper to dishwashing liquid. So we've seen business pick up like a lot of the consumer goods companies have, as folks are more at home, cooking more at home, and so using more things at home. And so from that standpoint, portions of the business have been very, very, very healthy. Other portions of the business, haven't been as strong, as folks might not shave as often or other things. So you have different places that are working through it, but in general, the business has been good, and we're there to really serve the needs of the consumer day in and day out with our brands.
Well, it's interesting. I was talking to someone the other day, and maybe you and I even talked about this a few weeks ago, that people are looking more to their trusted brands, the familiar brands during this uncertain time. Like, what's the brands I grew up with?
Yeah, definitely. And clearly, we take pride in really the brands that we build and really their connectedness with the consumers. That's part of why we've been around for so long, is really making sure that we, to the best of our ability, never break that promise on delivering quality products that really meet the consumer's needs day in and day out. And so I think in times like this, folks do reach for that certainty. If you're going to spend $1 when you're not sure when your next one's where it's coming from, you want to have something that you really trust that's going to perform and to deliver what you need.
Well, now, Jerry, I'm a full pivot on you.
Full pivot.
Because,
all right.
Because as an innovation maestro, R&D leader, we were going to talk about product and innovation and the future of CPG and all that stuff. But I really want to talk to you about what's happening in the world today.
Yeah.
Because when we scheduled this, a few weeks ago, what happened in Minneapolis with George Floyd's murder hadn't happened, the ensuing protests around the country and the world hadn't happened, we're in a much different place now. And, and I look at you as not only an inspiring leader and mentor, but, a successful African-American male in the workforce that's made it up the ranks. And I'm just interested to hear a lot of your perspective on what's going on. One, personally for you, like what are you feeling? What are you thinking about what's going on to start with? And then, the role that companies and brands should be playing right now.
Kicks you in the gut, right? And so it brings up fear, it brings up anger, it brings up dismay, it brought up a disappointment to sort of say, so in 2020, this is where we're at,
right?
And so those were all the feelings and pieces that we were going through. It's like, well, and even the Cooper in New York, just where she just felt like, hey, well, I could just call the police and say that you're threatening me in Central Park, and they'll believe me. And so all of that just really brought to light that racism and injustice is real, and for Black Americans, we would say, it's something we've been feeling, but I think it now being captured and in light, I think a lot of other folks, the veil was revealed from a lot of eyes like, okay, this isn't just, incidents that are happening.
Well, we talked about it earlier, right? We put out a message about it that, and I really believe this, it feels different this time. The energy and the inertia behind it is different.
Yep.
And there's a lot of elements and ingredients to it. There's a lot of pent up frustration over the last 4 years. There's a lot of, obviously, celebrities, athletes, influencers now speaking out in ways they hadn't before. There's the content and the video that we've seen, but just overall, the tipping point seems to have been reached and breached on this one.
No, I agree. And I think the other piece, which I was talking to my wife and to others, that's hopeful is, it's the younger, it's multi-generational. It's diverse crowds that are screaming for justice and equality and saying this isn't right. It's just not the African Americans and others. And so from that standpoint, as I've communicated, it's hopeful. It's hopeful that we can maybe drive a systemic change because everyone's just like, this is just wrong. And as Trevor Noah was saying, the contract was broken. There's a certain belief within society. If you haven't seen his piece, which talked about the contract that we all have of, okay, if I follow the guidelines and do everything, the contract you made is be treated fairly, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, all those things. But over the past 6 to 12 weeks, the cumulative effect of that just says, well, no, the cards are stacked, and that has been revealed to a broader subset, which now is able to. That's joining in and
well, I think it's sure. We talked about it that, and when you look out in our office here at BSB and Be Somebody is right across the courthouse here in Cincinnati, and when we see the protests out there, you see white Americans, Black Americans, brown Americans. You see every color out there. Right. You see every age group. You see it driven by that millennial younger age group, which is inspiring because that they're the ones coming up saying like, we don't want to live in a world like this.
Yeah, they're more exactly, and I think they've had different experiences. Have a different perspective, but I would also say don't overlook that. As I was in the crowd on Sunday, it is multi-generational. I see folks from all over. So I think versus say things in the past where it was a small, subset of folks that are really pushing it, this is broad. And I think it just sort of speaks to folks who are saying, no, we want a better world. The pendulum swings toward justice and that's the world that we want to have. And I think it's also a counterbalance to some of the negativity and ugliness that's just been pervasive, right? I mean, the voices that really have been heard over the past 3 years has had more of a negative piece and hasn't necessarily represented, I don't believe, the better angels and the majority of folks who want just want the best for their kids and expect the best for everyone else.
Right.
And so once again, I think this is the point in time we got to drive change.
Well, what about you? I mean, Jerry, this feels like almost like a dumb question, but have you experienced racism in your career?
Sure. I just had pinned a note for my organization, and I can't speak for I can. I'm sure every African American has experienced, if not direct racism, microaggressions at the minimal. But I would say in most cases can point to several occasions where it's just been abject racism. Luckily for me, it hasn't been tragic. I haven't been in a situation where, I've had a risk of losing my life. But yeah, I've been, not allowed to have service in locations. I've had racial slurs hurled at me on country roads and in sports. And so I could go down the list.
Right.
And so
what did you do in those situations?
Well, I mean, in some situations, in some of them you have confrontations, and others you just you don't escalate, you move on and say, I'm going to try and change it a different way. I think some of the others you really look at taking a stand. So in one case where I was refused service, fortunately at that time frame, we actually sued the establishment. Sort of says that, you have the power to sort of drive change if you really step out and go and do that and try to at least make an impact. And so fortunately, those have been some of the experiences. And so you persevere. And so you try to teach your kids and others on here are the things you need to do to the best of your ability to be safe, how to be safe in interactions if you get stopped, which, as I said, the talk is a great example of, and it's real. I mean, it's a conversation that we have with my son and daughter on, not everybody is going to perceive you as being the lovely child that you are in our eyes.
That daddy loses overseas, in
exactly. And so...
just so everybody knows, so you're referencing a commercial spot that Procter & Gamble put out called The Talk. There's also one called The Look that's out that actually I think they P&G just reposted on Instagram. And, that's a great segue into what Procter & Gamble is doing, Jerry, because we work with a lot of companies that have diversity as a value. I always have respected that Procter really lived that diversity value.
Yep.
And we traveled, we got to see stuff, and I think the multinational piece was a big part of it. But how do you feel about how the company has been reacting to what's going on and some of the content and messaging that P&G's been putting out?
Hey, listen, I'm very proud of the company taking a stand. I mean, caught a lot of fire in some of these, but it was a conversation that we needed to have, and we truly believe that a more inclusive world and better serving our consumers of all creeds, all races, all ethnicities, and what have you is really what we're about. And secondly, we're at our best when we're leveraging really the power of everyone, whether it be inside the company to innovate and deliver our products for the consumers, or reaching and touching every consumer. And so with that foundation and what we believe, I mean, it's just natural that we want to step up and sort of at least use our influence and the equity that we have to sort of say, hey, this is what we value and we believe is right on how we want to treat each other in that. And so I think this was an opportunity for us to really make a statement, to really showcase and at least express to others what are some of the other experiences out there that may not be obvious that a subsegment of our consumers are going to. And so you saw that piece, you saw, Be Like a Girl. I mean, that we do as well to go after gender bias. And so we want to, we're not afraid that we want to tackle all of those issues, because we think by elevating all of those, it makes it a better overall society for everyone. And that's part of our purpose and principles and values that we want to drive.
Right. Well, what I love about the content that you're referencing, the look and the talk, I mean, those didn't get produced last week.
No,
I mean, those were things
we've been on this journey for a while on driving sort of the awareness and to have a conversation, and really with this being such a big player from a marketing standpoint globally.
Right.
I think we view it as if someone's
largest advertiser still, right?
Yeah,
largest
exactly.
advertiser in the world, Procter
you got to
&
take
Gamble.
a stand and be a force for good on these subjects. Otherwise, you're just really, you're being silent, and therefore by being quiet, you're sort of condoning some of this. So I think it's something.
Has the company come out with an internal message to associates or to employees about everything that's going on? I mean, I'm
Yes.
sure you did with COVID, but with Black Lives Matter and things like that, has there been
Yeah,
internal?
I mean, definitely. There's been internal communication, that's gone out to the company, both sort of really expressing sort of the empathy, the disgust, and really, how dismayed the company is about sort of the events and that happened in Minneapolis, and really reinforcing our company's values and what we stand for, and actually making a statement on things that we're going to support to sort of further reduce and improve against sort of injustice and racial discrimination. I'm proud that the company is doing that and really taking the courageous leadership to get out and lend our voice to that.
Right. Well, I think courageous leadership is a perfect phrase, because that's what's needed. We've been talking about for a long time, even at the onset of COVID, that now is the time for companies to really focus on brand purpose, values. It's not the time to market your products. It's time to talk about what you believe in. And then with what happened in Minneapolis and all the events that have happened afterwards, it's even more so a time for people and companies to take the stage, take the platform to say, this is who we are, this is what we believe. Yep. Jerry, I was just going to share with you some stats that we pulled.
Oh, wow.
From Edelman, reported in Adweek this week. 56% of the general population believe brands must speak out against racism because they have a moral obligation to do so. 52% of Americans believe it's because brands owe it to their employees to speak out. 50% say it's because brands need to fill the government's leadership void, which is interesting. Yep. They're saying, hey, we want our brands to be the voice of the people, which I think is a powerful shift in how consumers are thinking. 41% say it's because they believe brands need to stand with consumers who feel that way. 38% say it's because brands need to attract and keep their customers, and if they don't, they're going to lose them. So the data is even speaking to, when you think about 56% say more than half of the country says brands should speak out.
Yep.
That's pretty powerful.
That's pretty powerful. And I think it's been a shift. I think more and more today, the consumers really want to associate themselves and buy the brands for something that speaks to their values. Right. All right. And if you're not sort of saying something and driving their values, then they've got other options of where they want to go. And so it is a priority and a prerogative for companies to really take a stand on what they believe. Yes, we're primarily focused on delivering great products that really touch and improve the lives of consumers. But it's also important for us that the communities that our employees live in are thriving and healthy and safe, and have equality and justice and inclusion for all. And so whatever we can do to help there, and so you see us, both our facilities, our corporate, to sort of make a difference wherever we're at, because we believe that's just part of our purpose.
A lot of people, listen or look at you and say that this small town kid got to see the world, rose up through the corporate ranks, so one of the most powerful, inspiring, talented companies on the planet, Procter & Gamble, led some of the biggest brands, biggest innovations, did it all not only as a talented leader, but as an African-American male. How did you do it?
Listen, I think, and it's a conversation I have with my son at times and my daughter. You got to persevere, right? And these things that if they don't kill you, they make you stronger. And so you need to figure out how you're going to navigate that. And along the way, build those relationships that, as the old African, proverb, if you want to go fast, go along. If you want to go far, you go together, right? Mm-hmm. And so how are you bringing folks along that will support you and sort of fortify you as you get into those down times to help you carry on? And so that's been a piece that has enabled me to move forward. And like I said, I mean, I think my story, there are several inspiring leaders that at P&G. And so I'd say, dream big and really think about how you're going to make a difference, really either in transforming the work that you're doing, the people around you. And if you do that, typically you can excel and really have great things. So be the best at what you do and make an impact. And if you can do that in everything you do, I still believe in America that 9 out of 10 times you'll be successful and move forward, even with the extra, as I call it, the extra burden you may have. It might might make you stronger. So persevere and move forward would be my message. I'm an optimist.
Right. No, I love it.
Winston Churchill's words, man, they sort of speak to me. What is it? Sort of like where you're all really looking for the opportunity, right? And where you can go. You don't look at the situation in a negative way. It's just an opportunity to excel. Right.
Well, hey, that is core to the Be Somebody DNA: resilience, perseverance. You know better than anybody. You saw us when we were, on top of the world in 2014, raising money, with growing our app, and then 2016 when I was dead broke, and I'm like, Jerry, can you please pay for that beer right there, because I don't got enough in my account for that one. Like, thank you. It's all, put that on P&G, like business development, but and which just really, and you talk about relationships, Jerry. I mean, I've always appreciated you, and I can tell everybody when you're talking about the relationships and going together as being core to who you are, and I know that's
it's key, man. For me, it's a key piece. I think whether it be friends from college and different walks of life, those relationships are key, and so that would be the piece. Reach out and connect. I think that is really the special sauce, man, is being able to connect and really understand each other. And if you can do that, then a lot of this stuff sort of goes to the side.
Right. So well said. Well, Herbie, I mean, we left you out of the whole conversation here.
Questions, Herbie.
Yes, Herbie. On to you.
I was just sitting back watching you guys. I mean, obviously, there's such a great relationship that the two of you have, and you could feel it. I know everybody around me, I think, can feel it too. So it was just great watching you two go back and forth. So thanks for letting me just hang out on this side of the room.
Hey, thank you, man.
Thanks, Herbie. Thanks, man.
Well, Jerry, thanks for coming in, man. I really appreciate it. I really respect everything that you stand for and everything that you're doing, and hopefully you get to come back again.
Hey, you guys will invite me again sometime. We'll see.
Thanks, Jerry.
Kash, Jerry had you beat on the miles.
I know, man. I can't believe it. He one-upped me with the Lufthansa.
Not only like a little bit. He had you a couple 100,000 miles. He had you too.
I know. He had those hidden. Those hidden. But man, it's so great listening to Jerry, just being authentic, being real, talking about his experiences, and really talking about what's so relevant today.
Yeah, it was so great hearing you guys connect. You can tell that you've been friends and for years, and he's such a mentor of yours. So Kash, from your conversation with Jerry, what was the one big thing?
I think the anthem is that we're all more similar than we are different. And it's something that I've always believed in my core, and it's something that I really learned and saw with my own eyes when I was traveling the world with Procter & Gamble. That's how Be Somebody came to life, no matter what corner of the world that I was in. And that opportunity to travel and see and meet all these different people from all these different cultures is what enabled me and educated me to understand that. And when I think about what's going on today in the world, where people still have the bias, they still have their prejudice, their preconceived notions, their misconceptions about others, it's often because they haven't seen enough. They haven't had the chance, maybe, or the opportunity to understand more about people from different places. And not everybody gets that opportunity to, I feel very blessed. Not everybody gets that opportunity to travel the world. But what I always say is that if you can't go across the world, go across the country, right? And if you can't go across the country, go across the state. If you can't go across the state, go to a different part of your city. If you can't go to a different part of your city, go to a new part of your neighborhood that you've never been before. And if you can't do that, then walk down to the edge of your driveway and sit there and experience things from a different perspective. because that's the only way you start to understand people who are unlike you. That's the only way that in the process you learn that we're all more similar than we are different.
It's so powerful, Kash. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
And thank you for listening to the Be Somebody podcast. Be sure to check out all of our episodes on besomebody.com or listen and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get yours. We out.
You.